Okay, so if you're not using AI in your business, then I wanted to create this just to show you how easy it is to actually start using AI for content and your website and your marketing. Just to make the whole process of producing that content a whole lot easier and faster, and even to create better content. So for this, I'm going to start first with an example that I gave to a client where I knew that he was going to need to come up with probably about 100 product category descriptions, which would normally be a mammoth task. And so I just reached out to him, asked him if he had looked at ChatGPT yet, and not surprisingly, like a lot of businesses, they may have become aware of it because it has been getting a lot of media coverage, but they may have not had the opportunity to look at it and consider whether it's something that they can integrate into their business, and even going that step further to actually make it part of their workflow. So this is just giving one example of, obviously this is a very pressing need where it makes sense to use AI for them. So in terms of just starting from scratch, not having all of these category descriptions, what I suggested was use the competitor's content as a jumping off point, as part of the prompt. So you can see here, rewrite the following content, keep the list but rewrite and expand, copy and paste, and going from what is actually a very short piece of content to, you can see it's expanded on that massively. So at this point, there's no way that it could be considered that we've plagiarized from this other business. So then from that point, I didn't actually want the expanded paragraphs. I still wanted them kept in bullet points. So I asked it to go back to the list style to make it easier to read. And so it did do that. Now, one thing to be aware of is that based on the data set that ChatGPT has learnt on, some of that data set does include information that's not correct. Potentially the way that ChatGPT will extrapolate from the content that it's already got to the results of the prompt that you see may end up with information that's not entirely correct, or maybe is just flat out incorrect. So just be aware of that you do need to proofread the content, you need to fact check it, you need to even just add your brand voice and your own unique perspective on content potentially. So in this instance, I look at this and I think that the thick skirt at the bottom is probably not related to keeping it stable and upright during use. I would say it's more to do with transport and normal storage conditions. So it's probably more just making sure that it's stable and it's not going to fall over and potentially become damaged when it's not in use. So I did actually say that's not correct, it's more to do with protecting the vessel. Still wanted to keep in this bit about during use, so I said nothing to do with when in use, and then at that point it then removed that, so it was then more correct. But again, it expanded to paragraph style, so then I just said go back to list style like before, but then it shortened the list again. So then I prompted it to keep the expanded list style, and in fact it then created even more content than that original version. So really, when you look at this, it's a matter of getting your prompts exactly right. Now that I've got the prompts, I could probably just go, all right, now rewrite this, copy and paste, now rewrite this, copy and paste, for each of the 100 different product category descriptions. So at that point, once you've got the prompts and you've pretty much taught ChatGPT what you're expecting from it, it's going to be a lot quicker. Now this also extends to all sorts of website content. So if you think if you're doing a website update or just updating the content on a couple of pages, the way that modern websites are done, they're built section by section. So generally you'll have a main headline for this section, main headline for this section, main headline for this section. So you can think, okay, come over to something like ChatGPT, I want content for this heading, here's the gist of it, write this in whatever style of writing. So it might be, I want to write like I'm Steve Jobs' visionary, and just see what it comes up with for that tone of voice. And so you think at that point in time, as long as you've got all of your pages planned out and there's a logical sequence flow to your content, then at that point creating content just becomes paint by numbers. Potentially you could have the content for an entire, say, 10-page website done in an hour or two, whereas I know oftentimes if you're writing your own content and you'll sit and just percolate on the whole idea of what is going to go into that, and it can take forever. So ChatGPT has definitely made that job a whole lot easier. Now, in terms of other jobs it's making a whole lot easier, I'll show you for a small business accountant as an example, just how easy it is for them to come up with content ideas and then from there to create the content for those ideas, and then content to actually promote that content. So if we look at this, all I did was come up with a list of 50 engaging articles related to small business cash flow management. Now you potentially might have, say, 20 keywords that you want to focus on. So at that point, if it's 20 lots of 50, that's 1,000 pieces of content that potentially you have ideas for. And at that point, it's just a matter of prioritizing that in your content production schedule and just what's coming up, what aspects of your business that you want to promote and bring in new clients. And so from there, all I did was I picked out one of those, asked it to write an article outline. The reason that I do that is because I want to know exactly what it thinks it's going to put in there, just to know whether or not I would then edit this outline as part of the next prompt before asking it to write the article. So in this example, I assumed that was okay and just asked it to write the article. And away it went, nice and easy, all done. That took less than a minute to write that. And then I thought one of the most important things is actually making sure that people are going to click to actually read that article. So one of the main factors in that is having a compelling title for that article. So I asked it to give me 5 different options. Now, the options that it might give might not be exactly what you want, but there's nothing stopping you mixing and matching from the options that it gives you. Then they were too long for the SEO title, so I told it to squash it down into 55 characters, making sure it's keeping the keywords in there. Then I asked it to write the meta description, which is in the search engine results. You've got the title and then the meta description under that. Then I asked it to write 5 different compelling clickbait social media posts to promote the article that include emojis and 3 hashtags, and it did that for me. Then I asked it to write both an email for blogger outreach, potentially to get them to promote my content, and also an email for promoting this article to my database. See, all of this was done in less than 10 minutes. You really need to think about that. Content ideas and content production in under 10 minutes. The old way of doing it should have taken hours, possibly days to do. Now it's squashed down into minutes. And even if you think, okay, this is enough to get me 80% there, now I just need to go in and add my own unique perspective to this, my own brand voice, then it's still going to be so much quicker. And if you look at what it tends to produce, I've given it the driest prompts for creating a social media post. And what it comes back with, if you say, look, let's make this compelling and clickbait worthy, and just give it those prompts, what it comes back with, I have to admit for myself, it would take a lot longer than a few minutes to come up with exactly the right content for that social media post. So it's something that if you are doing content marketing, you are wanting to increase your visibility through content, you really need to start looking at this and how you can integrate it in your business, because don't kid yourself, your competitors will be looking at this. So if you're not, all of a sudden you're going to have your competitors getting so much more visibility than you, and you're going to be stuck, left behind, going, what's just happened? So I do encourage you to look at this. ChatGPT, there's a free option. The option that we use that builds on top of ChatGPT, and I would encourage you to look at that, is Phrase. That starts from $15 US a month. I will include the link for that in the video description below this video. I really do encourage you to look at both ChatGPT and Phrase, because they will make a big difference in your ability to produce content that's better, quicker, and a whole lot easier.